Hey guys, welcome back to The Modern Yeoman. I'm Sean Higgins. So lately, Holly and I have been getting some questions about how exactly we were able to score our property. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the real estate market is bonkers right now, particularly the rural real estate market. It's what a lot of folks in the industry call a seller's market. Now, Holly and I certainly aren't rich, and we're definitely not in the place to make any sort of cash offer. So today I wanted to go over the steps that we took from beginning to end to actually secure our property, as well as some strategies that I think put us over the top and made us really competitive. First, before we get into it, a real quick update. As you can see, we're still cloistered away in our third floor apartment here in Asheville, but things are moving on the home front. The appraisal results are due in 2 days. So hopefully we hear any day now, any second now, what those results are. Provided they're good, then we should be all set to move forward with our tentative close date, which is 14 days from now. Our fingers are crossed, but I think we're in good shape. And in the meantime, I think we probably need to start packing. Okay, so like I was saying, it seems like the rural real estate market is cutthroat right now, historically tight. Just take a look at the news. People are moving out of the major metro areas in unprecedented numbers. They're moving to the suburbs. They're moving to small towns. They're moving to the countryside, to rural areas. Recently, I read a story about a young couple from Nashville who'd made an offer on a piece of property. I forget exactly where it was. It was somewhere between Nashville and Knoxville, but it was a nice chunk of countryside. It's 4 or 5 acres in a small house. And according to their agent, they were in a really good place with the offer that they made. They were well positioned to get the house. Well, a day after they made the offer, they got a phone call that said, sorry, they didn't get it. Apparently, somebody from out of state had made an all-cash offer for the property that was $60,000 over the asking price. And what makes that story even crazier is that apparently the all-cash offer was also sight unseen, which means that the buyer never physically stepped foot on the property to tour it. They made their purchasing decision based completely on photos that they had seen online. Now, that story is anecdotal, but it does line up with the types of things that Holly and I were seeing in our search. Properties that we bookmarked as interesting in the morning were oftentimes pending, sold by the afternoon. Our real estate agent said she's never seen a market like this in her career. Rural properties that would sit on the market for weeks or even months were being snatched up in days and sometimes hours. Bidding wars are the norm. And like I just mentioned, a lot of the offers coming in are sight unseen offers from out-of-state buyers. Now, why is this happening? Well, it's a combination of factors. Coronavirus, obviously, and the quarantines and lockdowns that we've all been under since about March. Political uncertainty for sure. But one thing that I think is playing a pretty major part in this trend is the rise of remote working. It seems to me that if 2018 was all about bike-friendly co-working spaces, then 2020 is about working remotely and rural fiber internet access. If 2018 was all about brunch at a hip, crowded new restaurant downtown, then maybe 2020 is about social distancing and eating barbecue on your deck at home. If 2018 was about spending more than $2,000 for a one-bedroom apartment in the city, maybe 2020 is about spending less than $1,000 for a mortgage on a countryside home. I think you get the picture. The point that I'm trying to make here is that it's a crazy time to be buying rural, probably the craziest in our lifetimes. So given that, how did Holly and I manage to get to a place where we were even able to make an offer, let alone get that offer accepted? Now, Holly and I certainly aren't real estate experts, but I can walk you through the process that we took to get our place. The first few steps are pretty common sense, but if you've never been through the home buying process before, then I think they'll be helpful for you to know about. Otherwise, I did want to share some tactics that we used that I think pushed us over the edge and made us really competitive. First, make a list. If you're going to be buying this property with a spouse or a relative or whatever, sit down with them and write out just what exactly you're looking for. Now, it's important to be brutally honest during this process. How much can you afford? How much land do you want? Where do you want it to be? Do you want an updated house or a fixer-upper? Make sure that you're as thorough as possible here, even with the understanding that you might be flexible in some areas, the amount of acreage, for example, or the number of bathrooms, and more rigid in others, the price or distance to loved ones. The important thing is that this list is going to give your search focus. It's going to give it parameters. It's going to give it a North Star. Once your list is written out, it'll be so much easier for everyone involved to be on the same page, including your realtor if you work with one. That actually leads me to my second point. After Holly and I made our list, we got hooked up with our realtor. Now, I know that there are some folks out there that prefer not to work with a realtor. But given the fact that this was only the second time that Holly and I had bought a house, we both personally felt it was in our best interest to outsource the nitty-gritty process of getting things scheduled and dealing with sellers agents and working on local bureaucracy and paperwork. In our view, it's a real bonus to have someone who knows the area in our corner. If you're buying for the first time, I would highly recommend working with a realtor. There are a ton of intricacies involved in the buying process, a lot of different things that can go wrong. So it's really nice to have someone kind of holding your hand and guiding you through the whole process. That's just us, though. If you're more inclined to roll up your sleeves and DIY it, then Godspeed to you. Now, in our case, we were referred to our realtor. She's actually a friend of my mom's. So if you have connections on that front, by all means, take advantage of them. After we had a chance to meet with our realtor, we simply gave her the list that we worked on in step 1, so she knew exactly what we were looking for. Third, with our search criteria set out and a relationship with our realtor established, we then went on to get pre-approval for our mortgage through our mortgage lender. Now, real quick, if you have the means to purchase a property straight up in cash, then you can go ahead and skip this step. You've got a huge advantage in your search, as sellers typically prefer to work with cash offers. From my understanding, appraisals aren't necessary with cash offers, and by and large, it's just a much simpler process. As for Holly and I, we are not in that boat, so we did need to get a mortgage pre-approval. This is another area where having a realtor really helps a lot. Our realtor has some mortgage lenders that she works with on a regular basis and recommends. So when we reached out to our current mortgage lender, the gal that we talked to had a great working relationship with our agent, and it kind of smoothed the process for us. Now, once you touch base with the lender, they can guide you through the process. They'll let you know what kind of documentation you need, what you need to do next. Be warned that it's a pretty thorough and even invasive dig into your financial situation. They're going to look at your income, the income that you're bringing in. They're going to look at your credit score. They're going to look at how much money you have on hand for a down payment, which, by the way, a down payment is typically anywhere from 10 to 20% of the final house price. They're going to look at all of that stuff. Well, Holly and I don't have a typical income situation, which I'll talk about more in a future video. We were able to prove our financial fitness through this process to the mortgage lender and get our pre-approval. Think of this pre-approval statement as your ticket to ride. Basically, it indicates how much you can afford in terms of your final payment, the down payment that you're going to be able to make, and also indicates the interest rate that you're expected to pay, whether you choose a 15-year or a 30-year mortgage. Now, unless you're paying cash, most sellers won't even look at your offer unless you have that pre-approval ready to go. Fourth, armed with a vigilant agent and a pre-approval letter, we started looking for property. Now, this was the fun part, obviously, right? Looking at Zillow, driving through new neighborhoods, getting to go on different house tours. But the fun kind of wore away once we realized how slim the pickings actually were. Now, given the extremely tight market, what did we do to enhance our search? We're not millionaires, and we'd certainly lose out on any sort of bidding war with some deep-pocketed, out-of-state investor looking to swoop in and buy up properties with all cash. We had to get creative. The next 3 steps are, in my view, what pushed us over the edge and got us our property. Step 5, we tweaked our search, amped it up a bit. We stalked all of the realtor sites. Zillow, Realtor, Redfin, whatever. It's not enough to use just one of them since sometimes they update differently. We definitely noticed a few times where there'd be a new listing on something like realtor.com, but it wasn't on Zillow, and vice versa. Now, you can sign up for these sites and plug in the criteria that you came up with when you made your list. So things like your price cap, the number of rooms you want, your desired acreage. You can also set them up to email you with alerts whenever there's a new listing in your criteria. To be honest, Holly and I never needed to sign up for that alert list because we were obsessively checking all of the sites anyways. But it's still something to keep in mind. Also, our realtor set us up to get listings from something called the MLS database. Now, I could be wrong here, but I don't think that your average civilian house hunter has access to this database. I think you can only get access through your realtor. Regardless, there were a lot of listings that don't appear on any of the major websites that only pop up in the MLS database. So we were able to get notified of those as well because we were on this database list. Step 6, we found out about the coming soon feature on Zillow.com. Now this coming soon thing might exist on some of the other websites, some of the other realtor sites, but for Holly and I, we only needed it on Zillow.com. That's actually where we found our farm, was on this coming soon listing. In order to find it, it's actually pretty easy. You just type in your desired area here in Zillow, and then once that comes up, you go over to the Buy tab, hover on it, and click Coming Soon. If there are any listings that are coming soon, they will be listed here. Keep in mind, they're not on the market yet. If you click on them, it should let you know when they're supposed to be on the market. Sometimes the sellers of these coming soon houses are open to folks touring them. That was the case for us. I don't know the rules around it, but our realtor basically got in touch with the seller's agent, said we were interested in the place, and asked if we could tour it before it was officially on the market. And they said yes. And so essentially, we got to jump on the market that way. This leads us to step 7, which I think was our secret weapon in getting the farm. After we were given a tour, we did make an offer, but we also included a personal letter that explained why exactly we would be the best fit for it. Holly actually wrote that letter, but she knocked it out of the park. She talked about our history with older houses, our experience raising chickens, our desire to be stewards of the land. Yes, we are the buyers here, but she was selling us. Now, there were several other offers in addition to ours, some that I'm pretty sure were higher, but I can guarantee you that that little extra personal touch of the letter sent our offer over the top. You know, when we were selling our old house last year, we received dozens of offers, but I only remember 2 of them including a personal letter. And I can tell you that the offer that we ended up going with was one of the letter writers. It did make a difference to us. I'm sure there are sellers that won't really care, flippers maybe, or somebody selling raw land, but there are a lot of sellers out there that really do care about what happens to this place that they called their home. Any kind of warm fuzzy they can get about the buyers really goes a long way. Holly is actually going to be putting out a short video on this channel about that letter that she wrote, so stay tuned for that. So there you have it. That was the process that we went through to buy our farm. Ultimately, there's a lot of serendipity involved here. Fate, providence, whatever you want to call it. You need to be open to luck, and you need to realize that this may take some time. From writing down our list to actually making the offer, it took us nearly 2 months, and we're the lucky ones. But despite the rush on rural properties, part of me thinks that we're still early in this wave. So if you're thinking about going rural or getting a house or property in the country, now might be the time to get moving on it. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you bought rural recently? Are you looking to buy? What are your experiences? Likewise, if I'm off base on anything here, let me know. Leave a comment regardless and wish us luck because we're in the home stretch. Until next time, I'm Sean Higgins and this is The Modern Yeoman.